Who is Charlotte Mason? In my opinion, Charlotte Mason was a paragon of education. She made it her life's mission not to educate children, but to educate parents, because her purpose was to provide support to parents as the first and most vital front lines of bringing up the future. And that was her passion. I'll just read this next bit straight off of Wikipedia. So Charlotte Mason was an English educator and reformer at the turn of the 20th century. She proposed to base the education of children upon a wide and liberal curriculum. By a wide and liberal, that means plentiful, not holding back from the children things they would learn. You don't know what's going to captivate their interests, and so you're just exposing the children to as many different ideas as possible and see what takes. Her lectures around the world, she taught in America and England and even parts of Africa. The different educational philosophies that she held is what eventually led to the formation of Boy Scouts of America, which it was an organization that lasted for the last 100 years. The use of pronouns in her books regularly rotates between examples of both male and female, boys and girls. It being important to emphasize ideas are necessary for the development of all human beings and not any separate groupings. One of her mottos in life was liberal education for all. Charlotte Mason was part of an extraordinarily religious culture compared to modern times. If you can stomach allusion to both scriptural and ancient stories of people, you may find much worth knowing. The following is a synopsis of educational theory pulled from the preface of her book, Home Education. It is a series because the book is a compilation of articles that she wrote to support parents in rearing their children, and she would share these lectures everywhere that she visited. Number 1. Children are born persons. Number 2. They are not born either good or bad, but with possibilities for good and evil. Number 3. The principles of authority on the one hand and obedience on the other are natural, necessary, and fundamental. But Number 4. These principles are limited due to the respect due to the personality of children, which must not be encroached upon whether by fear or love, suggestion or influence, or undue play upon one natural desire. Number 5. Therefore, we are limited to 3 educational instruments: the atmosphere of the environment, the discipline of habit, and the presentation of living ideas. Number 6. By the saying, education is an atmosphere, it is not meant that a child should be isolated in what may be called a child environment, especially adapted and prepared, but that we should take into account the educational value of his natural home atmosphere, both as regards to persons and things, and should let him live freely among his proper conditions. It stultifies a child to bring down his world to the child's level. Number 7. By education as a discipline, it is meant the discipline of habits formed definitely and thoughtfully, whether of habits of mind or body. Physiologists tell us of the adaptation of brain structure to habitual lines of thought. Number 8. In the saying that education is a life, the need of intellectual and moral as well as physical sustenance is implied. The mind feeds on ideas, and therefore children should have a generous curriculum. Number 9. But the mind is not a receptacle into which ideas must be dropped, each idea adding to an apperception mass of its like, the theory upon which her Bartian doctrine of interest rests. Number 10. On the contrary, a child's mind is no mere sack to hold ideas, but is rather, if the figure may be allowed, a spiritual organism with an appetite for all knowledge. This is its proper diet, with which it is prepared to deal, and which it can digest and assimilate as the body does foodstuffs. Number 11. This difference is not a verbal quibble. The Herbartian doctrine lays the stress of education, the preparation of knowledge and enticing morsels presented in due order, upon the teacher. Children taught upon this principle are in danger of receiving much teaching with little knowledge, and the teacher's axiom is, what a child learns matters less than how he learns it. Number 12. But believing that the normal child has powers of mind that fit him to deal with all knowledge proper to him, we must give him a full and generous curriculum, taking care only that the knowledge offered to him is vital, that is, that facts are not presented without their informing ideas. Out of this conception comes the principle that, Number 13. Education is the science of relations. That is, a child has natural relations with a vast number of things and thoughts. So we must train him upon physical exercises, nature, handicrafts, science, and art, and upon many living books, for we know that our business is not to teach him all about anything, but to help him make valid as many as may be of those first-born affinities that fit our new existence to existing things. Number 14. There are also 2 secrets of moral and intellectual self-management, which should be offered to children. These we may call the way of the will and the way of reason. Number 15. The way of the will. Children should be taught A. To distinguish between I want and I will. B. That the way to will effectively is to turn our thoughts from that which we desire but do not will. C. That the best way to turn our thoughts is to think of or do some quite different thing entertaining or interesting. D. That after a little rest in this way, the will returns to its work with new vigor. Number 16. The way of reason. We should teach children also to not lean too confidently upon their own understanding, because the function of reason is to give logical demonstration, A, of mathematical truth, and B, of an initial idea accepted by the will. In the former case, reason is perhaps an infallible guide, but in the second, it is not always a safe one, for whether that initial idea be right or wrong, reason will conform it by irrefragable proofs. Number 17. Therefore, children should be taught, as they become mature enough to understand such teaching, that the chief responsibility that rests on them as persons is the acceptance or rejection of initial ideas. To help them in this choice, we should give them principles of conduct and a wide range of knowledge fitted for them. These three principles, 15, 16, and 17, should save children from some of the loose thinking and heedless action which cause most of us to live at a lower level than we need. Number 18. We should allow no separation to grow up between the intellectual and spiritual life of children, but should teach them that the divine spirit has constant access to their spirits and is their continual helper in all interests, duties, and joys of life.